Marvin. Number 1 is Lee Marvin, a Hollywood legend whose burial spot is as unexpected as his tough guy persona. You might know him from movies like The Dirty Dozen or Cat Ballou, where he played gritty, no-nonsense characters. But here's the twist. Marvin isn't buried in a glitzy Hollywood cemetery. Instead, he rests in Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia, the same hallowed ground where soldiers and war heroes are laid to rest. Weird, right? Why would a movie star end up there? The answer lies in Marvin's past. Before he became a celebrity, he was a U.S. Marine during World War II. He fought in the Pacific, got wounded in battle, and earned a Purple Heart. After the war, he kept his military life private, focusing on acting. But when he died in 1987, his family honored his wish to be buried at Arlington, a place that meant more to him than Hollywood ever could. His simple headstone reads only his name, rank, and service dates, but it does not mention his Oscar or films. It's a quiet nod to the soldier he was, not the star he became. Visiting his grave feels like stepping into a time machine. Arlington is open to the public, so fans can wander among rows of white markers until they spot his unassuming stone in Section 7A. It's strange to see his name next to war heroes, but it's also fitting. Marvin once said, "I'd rather be remembered as a Marine than an actor." His burial spot proves he meant it. To this day, visitors leave coins or notes, honoring both the man and the Marine. It's a reminder that even the toughest Hollywood icons have stories deeper than the roles they played. Gwynne. Fred Gwynne was the towering actor best known for playing Herman Munster on the classic TV show The Munsters. But here's the kicker. When he passed away in 1993, he wasn't buried in some glitzy Hollywood cemetery. Nope. Instead, he rests in an unmarked grave at the Sandy Mount United Methodist Church in Finksburg, Maryland. Weird, right? Why would a beloved star choose such a quiet, hidden spot? Gwynne was a man of surprises. Standing 6 feet 5 inches tall, he had a booming voice and a face perfect for quirky roles. But off-screen, he was a devoted family man and a talented artist who wrote and illustrated children's books like The King Who Reigned. He even painted the artwork for episodes of Car 54, Where Are You?, a show he starred in before the Munsters. Despite his fame, he valued privacy and simplicity. His unmarked grave reflects that. No flashy tombstone, just a quiet corner in a small-town churchyard. Why Maryland? Gwynne owned a farm there where he loved to paint and escape Hollywood's chaos. His daughter, Madden Gwynne, once called him a complex character, hinting he preferred to be remembered for more than just Herman Munster. Fans who visit the churchyard might wander past rows of stones, searching for his name, but it's nowhere to be found. Some say this mystery adds to his legend. After all, he was a man who played monsters and comedians, but chose to vanish quietly into the Maryland countryside. It's the ultimate twist from a guy who lived life on his own terms. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe was the Hollywood icon, whose burial spot is as fascinating as her life. Born Norma Jean Mortensen, she became one of the biggest stars of the 1950s, famous for her roles in films like Gentlemen Prefer Blondes and The 7-Year Itch. But her final resting place? It's not what you'd expect. After her tragic death at 36 in 1962, Marilyn was buried in a crypt at the Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery in Los Angeles. A crypt is like a small room inside a mausoleum, a fancy above-ground tomb, and hers is in the Corridor of Memories section. Why a crypt? Her ex-husband, baseball legend Joe DiMaggio, arranged the burial. He wanted her to rest somewhere private and safe, away from the chaos of Hollywood. But here's the twist. The cemetery became a hotspot for fans. People leave flowers, letters, and even lipstick kisses on the wall. Her crypt is stained from them. It's like she's still a star, even in death. Why is this weird? Well, most celebrities are buried in regular graves or mausoleums, but Marilyn's crypt feels like a shrine. Plus, her neighbor is Hugh Hefner, the founder of Playboy, who bought the crypt next to hers in 1992 so he could spend eternity beside her. Creepy or romantic? You decide. Marilyn's life was full of ups and downs. She grew up in foster homes, became a global icon, but struggled with loneliness and addiction. Her crypt symbolizes her lasting fame. Fans visit her grave on her birthday, June 1st, and the anniversary of her death, August 5th. It's a place where her legend lives on, proving that even in death, Marilyn Monroe remains one of the most captivating stars of all time. Groucho Marx. Groucho Marx, the legendary comedian who made the world laugh with his sharp wit, painted mustache, and cigar. Born Julius Henry Marx in 1890, he became the face of the Marx Brothers, a comedy troupe that took Broadway and Hollywood by storm. His humor was so iconic that even his tombstone reflects his comedic genius. When Groucho passed away in 1977, his ashes were laid to rest at Eden Memorial Park in San Fernando, California, not exactly a place you'd expect for a Hollywood legend. But here's the kicker. His epitaph reads, "I'll be happy to raise you from the dead for a 10% finder's fee." Can you imagine? Even in death, he's cracking jokes. This quip fits his personality perfectly. He was the kind of guy who'd roast you one minute and have you rolling on the floor laughing the next. Why is this burial spot so unusual? For starters, Eden Memorial Park is a simple cemetery, not a glitzy Hollywood mausoleum. Groucho's ashes are in a plain niche, with no flashy monument or fanfare. Yet fans still visit to pay tribute, leaving notes or coins on his plaque. It's a quiet corner, but his humor shines through. Groucho's life was all about defying expectations. He hosted the radio TV show You Bet Your Life, where he'd improvise jokes with contestants, and he once said, "I never forget a face, but in your case, I'll be glad to make an exception." His burial site is a final punchline, proving that even death couldn't silence his wit. To this day, his grave is a pilgrimage spot for comedy lovers, a reminder that laughter lives forever. Charles Bronson. Charles Bronson was the rugged actor who became a symbol of tough justice in films like Death Wish and The Magnificent Seven. But here's the twist. When he passed away in 2003 at age 81, he wasn't buried in a flashy Hollywood cemetery. Instead, he rests in a quiet corner of Brownsville Cemetery in West Windsor, Vermont. Weird, right? Why would a Hollywood legend choose such a remote spot? Bronson was born Charles Bukinski in Pennsylvania to Lithuanian immigrant parents. He grew up poor, working in coal mines as a kid, and later served in World War II, earning a Purple Heart. After the war, he changed his name to avoid Hollywood's anti-communist blacklist and pursued acting. He rose to fame playing gritty roles, but off-screen, he was a family man with 3 marriages and a love for privacy. So why Vermont? Bronson owned a home there and cherished its rural beauty. He once said he wanted to be remembered as a simple man who loved his country. His grave is simple, with a small stone marker, no fanfare, just his name and dates. Fans who visit might expect a grand monument, but instead they find a peaceful field surrounded by trees, a stark contrast to his on-screen toughness. What's weirder? Despite his fame, Bronson's burial spot is so low-key that even locals might not know it's him. No guards, no crowds, just quiet respect. It's a reminder that the man who played vengeful vigilantes preferred a humble goodbye. To this day, visitors leave coins or notes, honoring the star who chose simplicity over spectacle. It's the ultimate twist from a guy who lived life on his own terms, even in death. Raye. Raye, the boisterous comedian nicknamed the Big Mouth for her famously wide smile, was a fixture of Hollywood's screwball comedies and a beloved USO performer during World Wars II, Korea, and Vietnam. But her burial place is as surprising as her career. She rests in the Fort Bragg Main Post Cemetery in North Carolina, home to U.S. Army Special Forces soldiers. Why there? Raye wasn't just an entertainer. She was a military icon. She performed for troops in combat zones, earned honorary ranks in the Army and Marines, and even trained as a medic. When she died in 1994, her family honored her wish to be buried among her boys, the soldiers she loved. The twist? She's the only civilian woman buried there. Her grave, marked with a simple stone, sits near the Special Forces Chapel, where she received full military honors at her funeral. Visitors often leave coins or notes, thanking her for boosting soldiers' morale. It's a fitting tribute to a woman who once said, "I'd rather be remembered for making GIs laugh than for being a movie star." Her burial spot isn't just a cemetery, it's a testament to her lifelong dedication to the military, making it one of the most unusual and heartfelt final resting places in Hollywood history. Mel Blanc. Mel Blanc, the genius behind Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and Porky Pig, was known as the Man of 1,000 Voices. But his tombstone at Hollywood Forever Cemetery in Los Angeles is a final punchline. It reads, "That's all, folks," Porky Pig's iconic sign-off. Blanc's humor followed him to the grave, and fans still visit to leave candy, coins, or notes. Why Hollywood Forever? It's a fitting spot for a man who defined animation's golden age. The cemetery is a hotspot for entertainment legends, but Blanc's marker stands out for its playful nod to his work. He voiced over 400 characters, from Yosemite Sam to the Tasmanian Devil, and his contract with Warner Brothers was so exclusive that he once turned down a role in Pinocchio to stay loyal to Looney Tunes. The weirdest part? Blanc's voice lives on in more ways than one. His company, Blanc Communications, produced thousands of radio spots, and his son Noel carried on his legacy. Even in death, Mel Blanc's laughter echoes. His tombstone is a shrine to the joy he brought to generations. It's the perfect ending for a man who once said, "I've never been in a cartoon, but I've been in a lot of them." Bela Lugosi. Bela Lugosi, the actor who immortalized Count Dracula on stage and screen, has a burial story as eerie as his most famous role. Born in Hungary in 1882, Lugosi became synonymous with vampires after starring in the 1931 film Dracula. But here's the twist. When he died in 1956, his funeral included a shocking detail. He was buried in his full Dracula cape. Why? His friends honored his wish to be laid to rest as the character that defined his career. The cape, a symbol of his legacy, was draped over his body in a simple wooden coffin. Lugosi's grave is at Hollywood Forever Cemetery in Los Angeles, a place where fans still leave plastic fangs, garlic, a nod to vampire lore, and notes. His headstone reads, "He was a great artist, a prince of the theater, and a man of many parts." But the weirdest part? During his funeral, a friend recited lines from Dracula, and his ex-wife reportedly whispered, "Goodbye, Count." Even in death, Lugosi's connection to the character he loved and sometimes resented remains unbroken. His burial spot feels like a living tribute to his iconic role, making it one of Hollywood's most haunting final acts. Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra, the legendary singer nicknamed Old Blue Eyes, had a burial as bold as his personality. When he passed away in 1998 at 82, he was laid to rest in Desert Memorial Park in Palm Springs, California. Not a glitzy Hollywood cemetery. Why there? Sinatra loved Palm Springs, where he owned a home and often escaped the spotlight. His grave is simple, with a headstone reading, "The best is yet to come," a nod to his famous song. But here's the kicker. He was buried with a bottle of Jack Daniel's whiskey, Camel cigarettes, a Zippo lighter, and dimes for payphones. Why? Sinatra was known for his love of bourbon, smoking, and staying connected, even in the afterlife. Fans visit his grave to leave flowers, coins, or notes, often quoting his lyrics. The cemetery is open to the public, and Sinatra's spot is a pilgrimage site for music lovers. His burial reflects his rebellious spirit. He once said, "I did it my way." And his final resting place proves he lived by those words. Despite his fame, Sinatra chose simplicity over grandeur, making his grave a quiet yet powerful symbol of a life lived on his own terms. Hal Roach. Hal Roach, the producer behind Laurel and Hardy and Our Gang, The Little Rascals, had a burial as unexpected as his films. Born in Elmira, New York in 1892, Roach moved to Hollywood and became a comedy legend. But when he died in 1992 at 100, He chose to be buried back in Elmira, far from the glitz of Hollywood. Why? Roach never forgot his roots. His grave is in Woodlawn Cemetery, the same place where Mark Twain rests. Roach's career spanned 80 years, and he won an honorary Oscar in 1984 for his contributions to film. Yet his burial spot is simple, a marker with his name and dates. Fans who visit find a quiet corner in a small-town cemetery, a stark contrast to his bustling Hollywood studio. Why Elmira? Roach once said, "I want to be where I started." His choice shows he valued humility over fame, making his final resting place a touching reminder that even Hollywood giants can return to their humble beginnings. Gene Roddenberry. The visionary creator of Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry was a man who imagined humanity's future among the stars. When he passed away in 1991, his burial became as groundbreaking as his work. Instead of a traditional grave, Roddenberry became the first person ever to have his ashes scattered in space. A portion of his cremated remains was launched aboard the Space Shuttle Columbia in 1992, orbiting Earth for 6 days before returning. Later, in 1997, more of his ashes were sent into deep space via a rocket, where they now drift among the stars, a fitting tribute to the man who coined the phrase, "to boldly go where no man has gone before." Why space? Roddenberry's entire career was about exploration and hope. Star Trek inspired scientists, astronauts, and dreamers to look beyond Earth's boundaries. His burial choice mirrored his philosophy, that humanity's destiny lies among the stars. The ashes were carried by a company called Celestis, which specializes in memorial spaceflights. Years later, in 2009, his wife Majel Barrett Roddenberry's ashes joined his on a similar journey, creating a cosmic reunion. This burial isn't just unusual, it's a final act of storytelling. Roddenberry's ashes have no fixed location, but they roam the cosmos, much like the Starship Enterprise he imagined. There's no grave to visit, no tombstone, just the endless sky. It's a reminder that his legacy isn't bound by Earth. It's as vast as the universe he loved. For fans, looking up at the stars is now a way to remember the man who made science fiction a beacon of hope. Jim Morrison. Jim Morrison, the legendary lead singer of The Doors, is buried in a place that feels like a rock and roll fairy tale. Imagine this, a cemetery in Paris, France, called Père Lachaise, where poets, painters, and singers rest. Morrison's grave is there, but it's not just any grave. It's a hotspot for fans who travel from all over the world to leave flowers, candles, and handwritten notes. Why Paris? Morrison moved there in 1971 to focus on writing poetry and escape the chaos of fame. Just days before his death at 27, he visited the cemetery and whispered to a friend, "I want to be buried here among the greats." A few days later, he was found dead in his apartment. His family honored his wish, and he was laid to rest in the Poets' Corner, near French literary icons like Arthur Rimbaud, who inspired his lyrics. But here's the strange part. Morrison's grave is one of the most visited spots in Paris, even more popular than some museums. Fans flock to it, sometimes leaving whiskey bottles, guitar picks, or graffiti. The cemetery staff isn't thrilled. There have been wild parties, attempts to dig up his body, and even a stolen bust of Morrison. To protect the site, they placed a stone slab over his grave and added barriers. Yet, people still sneak in at night. One rumor says his headstone's Greek inscription, "True to his own spirit," was chosen by his father to reflect Morrison's rebellious soul. Can you visit? Absolutely. Père Lachaise is open to the public, but finding the grave can be tricky. It's a huge cemetery with 70,000 graves. Maps and signs help, but some fans get lost on purpose, wandering among tombstones that look like sculptures. Morrison's death remains a mystery. No autopsy was done, and his grave feels like a living shrine to his legacy. Even today, it's a place where the line between mourning and celebration blurs, making it one of the weirdest, most fascinating burial sites in history. Prince. Prince Rogers Nelson, the musical genius behind hits like Purple Rain and When Doves Cry, remains as mysterious in death as he was in life. When he died unexpectedly in 2016 at age 57 from a fentanyl overdose, his burial details were shrouded in secrecy. Unlike stars with public graves or elaborate memorials, Prince's final resting place has never been publicly confirmed. His remains were cremated, and the location of his ashes remains unknown, a deliberate choice by his family to honor his lifelong desire for privacy. This secrecy only deepens the intrigue surrounding his legacy. A Minneapolis native, Prince was found dead at his home and studio, Paisley Park, in Chanhassen, Minnesota. Fans hoped he might be buried in his hometown, but no public grave exists. Instead, his memory lives on through tributes, unreleased music, and the countless artists he inspired. Even in death, Prince defies convention, leaving the world to wonder where his ashes might rest. His burial is a final act of mystery, fitting for a man who once said, "I don't want to be a star, I want to be a legend." And in that, he succeeded. Tupac Shakur. Tupac Shakur, the legendary rapper and actor, had one of the most rebellious farewells in celebrity history. After his tragic death in a 1996 drive-by shooting, his ashes were partially scattered at a Malibu beach, a private ceremony honoring his love for the ocean. But the weirdest part? Members of his hip-hop group, Outlaws, rolled his remaining ashes into a marijuana joint and smoked them, fulfilling his lyric, "Last wishes, nah. Smoke my ashes." This act was a raw, unfiltered tribute to his legacy as a voice for the marginalized. Tupac's burial defied tradition, mirroring his life as a provocative artist who challenged societal norms. In 2023, he became the first rapper awarded a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, cementing his status as a cultural icon. Even in death, his story remains unforgettable. Hunter S. Thompson. Gonzo journalist Hunter S. Thompson, famed for his drug-fueled narratives in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, had a burial as wild as his life. In 2005, his ashes were fired into the Colorado sky from a 153-foot cannon, shaped like a double-thumbed fist, paid for by friend Johnny Depp. The $2 million ceremony included a tower adorned with peyote buttons and a guest list featuring Jack Nicholson. Thompson's ashes were also scattered at his Owl Farm property where he lived and wrote. His farewell was a chaotic, poetic spectacle, reflecting his belief that life should be lived at full throttle. The event was both a eulogy and a final act of rebellion, proving that even in death, Thompson refused to conform. Carrie Fisher. Carrie Fisher, beloved as Princess Leia in Star Wars, had a burial as quirky as her humor. After her 2016 death, her ashes were placed in a life-sized Prozac pill-shaped urn, chosen by her brother Todd as a nod to her candidness about mental health struggles. She rests beside her mother, Debbie Reynolds, at Hollywood's Forest Lawn Memorial Park. Fisher's urn symbolizes her wit and advocacy, turning a private moment into a public statement. Fans visit the grave to leave notes and flowers, honoring her legacy as an actress, writer, and mental health advocate. Her burial merges humor with heartache, a fitting tribute to a woman who once said, "I am mentally ill. I can say that. I can own that." Luke Perry. Luke Perry, the charismatic star of Beverly Hills, 90210 and Riverdale, made headlines in 2019 not just for his tragic death at 52, but for his unconventional burial choice. After suffering a massive stroke, Perry was laid to rest in an eco-friendly mushroom suit, a biodegradable garment infused with mushroom spores and microorganisms designed to decompose his body into nutrient-rich soil. His daughter, Sophie, revealed the choice on Instagram, calling it a beautiful thing that honored his love for nature. The suit, created by the company Coelho, works by accelerating decomposition while neutralizing toxins in the body, a stark contrast to traditional embalming fluids and metal caskets. Perry's burial site remains private, likely on his farm in Van Lear, Tennessee. where he spent years tending to land and livestock. Friends and fans were stunned by his quiet rebellion against Hollywood's glitz. Instead of a lavish memorial, he chose a burial that returns to the earth. Perry's decision sparked global conversations about green funerals, a movement gaining traction as people seek eco-conscious end-of-life options. His burial wasn't just personal, it was a statement. Sophie noted her father's excitement about the suit, saying he'd never been more passionate about a cause. Even in death, Perry used his platform to advocate sustainability, proving that his legacy extends far beyond the screen. His final act wasn't just a farewell, it was a gift to the planet, ensuring his memory lives on in the soil he cherished. David Bowie, rock icon. David Bowie's burial was as enigmatic as his music. After his 2016 death, his ashes were scattered in Bali, Indonesia, following Buddhist rituals. His family kept the exact location private, respecting his desire for a quiet farewell. Bowie, who once sang "We Can Be Heroes Just for One Day," chose a burial far from the spotlight, reflecting his lifelong aversion to spectacle. Fans honor him through tributes and art, but his final resting place remains unknown. It has now become a fitting mystery for a man who reinvented himself countless times. His ashes rest in a land he loved, where the ocean and spirituality merge, ensuring his legacy remains as boundless as his music. Bob Marley. Bob Marley, the man who brought reggae to the world, rests in a place as rooted in his identity as his music. Born in 9 Mile, Jamaica in 1945, Marley was buried there in 1981 after succumbing to cancer at 36. His modest mausoleum sits on the grounds of his childhood home, now the Bob Marley Museum, a pilgrimage site for fans. The museum tour winds through lush hills, past his tiny childhood bedroom and the rock where he meditated, leading to the mausoleum. There, visitors pay respects at his grave, where he lies beside his mother and half-brother. Why 9 Mile? For Marley, roots mattered. His music drew from Jamaica's struggles in spirituality, and he wanted to return to the soil that inspired him. The site feels like a time capsule, simple, serene, and surrounded by nature. Fans leave flowers, notes, or tokens, turning the mausoleum into a living shrine. The museum itself is a mix of history and homage, with displays of his guitars, awards, and personal items. Yet commercialization lingers. A gift shop greets visitors, and tours sometimes feel rushed. Still, the energy is palpable. As one visitor wrote, "Standing there, you feel his spirit in the air." Marley's burial isn't just a grave, it's a testament to his legacy.